All right, let's talk a little Dolphins, Ben. So there's been Sunday's game. I had said yesterday was kind of one of those straw that broke the camel's back games for a lot of people who write about the Dolphins, root for the Dolphins. I just going off the top of my head, Adam Beasley, Dave Hyde, and pretty much Barry Jackson all wrote columns saying that Chris Grier has to go. Where do you stand on what seemingly is going to be a Dolphin season where they don't make the playoffs?
Well, I find that interesting that it's the GM that has to go and not the coach, because I would think at minimum, if you're going to say that the guy, I don't know. I always think that the coaches have such a big impact on the game, and that, like this year, the Patriots' entire draft class, other than Drake May, is terrible. So is it the fact that the front office picked every single player they picked is wrong, or is that the coaches don't know how to develop and use these guys and get the most out of them? And if the Dolphins continuously are losing to teams with winning records and they can't win these big games and it's becoming a feature, not a bug of the program, why would the head coach be absolved of all of it? I don't see Mike McDaniel's team having accomplished anything given all the talent that they have on offense. I mean, Chris Grier has spent a lot of money putting that team together. I don't understand why the coaching staff would be absolved from blame when the coach is very much responsible for how the team responds to adversity and how they handle week-to-week situations. And for 3 years now, they've just been a team that can't beat winning teams and can't win big games. So I would say if you're going to fire the GM, I would look at firing the head coach too and starting over, because I think this is a team that's probably reached its pinnacle and is not showing like it can do anything more than squeak into the playoffs and lose in the first round.
And Ben, a conversation we had about Tua. If Tua's in Cincinnati, could he put up the Joe Burrow numbers? If Tua's in KC, could he put up the Patrick Mahomes numbers? Is Tua transferable to any style of offense, or is it a Tua Mike McDaniel combination that makes pretty much, honestly, both of them? Does Tua need Mike? Does Mike need Tua?
I argue that Tua puts up better numbers in KC and Cincy, by the way.
Yeah, I mean, I don't think Mike McDaniel is like the only person on the planet who could unlock Tua's potential. I think it's been a good system for them. It's been a good marriage, but it does feel like they're just in a weird place right now because of Tua's concussion history, where it seems like Mike McDaniel, instead of like building on the offense, they have to kind of limit what they want to do and throw a lot of quick passes because they're just trying to get the ball out of Tua's hands so quickly. So I don't know, maybe that relationship now has kind of run its course. I mean, this is kind of a weird year with the injuries kind of messing things up and putting the Dolphins so far, behind the eight ball in the playoff race. So, maybe for once, Stephen Ross just wants to take a breath and like let things chill and maybe hope for better luck next year. But at the same time, this is the third year now with Mike McDaniel and Tua where they look good, but can't do quite enough to get over the top and become a real winning team. And how long do you want to keep ramming your head against the wall and expecting different results? So I do think that some changes are probably going to be coming this offseason for the Dolphins. And this is probably the last run for this core. I don't know which guys are going to be moving on necessarily, but it does feel like some pieces of this core are going to be gone starting next year because this core just hasn't done enough to merit, bring it back and trying again.
It's kind of what Adam Beasley said to us yesterday and wrote in his column, which is, the roster seems like it has great potential and it, like you said, isn't becoming like a little, glitch every now and then. This seems to be who they are. They can't get past good teams. They can't beat playoff worthy teams. But if I told you before the season started, you had a team with Tua and Tyreek and Jalen Waddle and Jonnu Smith and Raheem Mostert. And on the other side of the ball, you had Jalen Ramsey and Javon Holland, Jalen Phillips, Bradley Chubb, if they're not injured. Like, they have a roster stacked with talent.
So that goes to what I was saying before. I'm not sure why the answer is firing Chris Grier. I agree. I think they have talent there. It's just the coaching staff doesn't seem to be getting the most out of it. The talent isn't gelling together for whatever reason. And So I agree. I find it curious that the answer is to fire the GM. I'd be looking at the coach. I want a coach that can lead his team into a cold weather situation and win a game. I mean, seriously, if I'm Stephen Ross, these upcoming games at the Jets and at the Browns, right? You got to, these would be crucial games for evaluating Mike McDaniels. Inferior opponents with nothing to play for. Let's see the Dolphins go into those cold weather, situations and come away with wins. And if not, I think Stephen Ross should seriously consider making not only a change at GM, but I think more appropriately a change at head coach after this season.
But Ben, take the Dolphins out of it. Just this context that I present to you. You go through a rebuild starting in 2018. You tank. You pick your quarterback. As a GM, I'm speaking. You pick the quarterback you want. You cycle through 2 different head coaches. And now, after 5 years or 6 years of that rebuild, you're further away from taking down the Buffalo Bills. Doesn't the person responsible for constructing that roster and finding the personnel have to answer for that?
Yeah, and it is smart to pair the GM. If you're going to fire a GM or a head coach, it's much smarter to do both as opposed to one or the other, because you want everyone aligned on the same timeline. You don't want a GM coach, building a roster for now, but the coach looking for long-term success or anything, or the opposite. So it would be smarter to hold the GM accountable with the coach as well. At the same time, if you're not planning on blowing up the roster, if you're just hoping to retool it, because they did re-sign everyone, so they're locked into a lot of these guys, maybe you let the GM try to dig his way out of it, and maybe you justify it by saying, we have the players. Hawk listed a bunch of very talented, well-compensated players. We just need the right coaching staff to get the most out of these guys. So I think it's very easy for Stephen Ross and the Dolphins to justify that the failures of the Dolphins are more because of the coaching staff than Chris Grier in the front office.
I mean, who's the golden goose of this? Because the Jets got an opening, Chicago got an opening, so there's going to be some coaches hired. Is it? I heard Aaron Glenn. I'm hearing, who is it? Ben Johnson from the line. Who's the golden goose of this coaching search?
I mean, it does seem like Ben Johnson from the Lions is kind of the young offensive coach that everyone wants to get a part of. We'll see about Aaron Glenn. There's a lot of defensive coaches and former players who kind of fill that bucket. So I'm not sure if he's going to get a job. And there might be fewer openings this year than usual. We know there's the Jets and the Bears, but and the Saints, it feels like your boy Darren Rizzi, momentum is building there for him to keep that job. I think that'd be a terrific hire for the Saints. I love that he went for 2 at the end of the game, even though it didn't work for them the other day. That's coaching, aggressively, and he's got backup quarterbacks, but the players are still playing hard and they're winning games. So maybe Rizzi gets the job there in New Orleans.
Go Ben Volin. You can read his work at the Boston Globe app as well. Thank you for making time for us. Have a great holiday season. I'm imagining we won't talk to you till next year, and we'll see where things stand with the Dolphins and the Patriots when we do.
All right, boys. Thanks a lot.